I'm Dane Rose, and in this video, we'll explore the most depressing reality, the most depressing state imaginable, or we'll attempt to. So in trying to understand what the epitome of depression looks like, we can also then get some ideas of how to move it towards something slightly less depressing. So let's identify this location here, the most depressing thing imaginable. And then let's look at how do we arrive there. So one thing that's important is powerlessness. And that's important because if we have power, it's not very depressing at all. Whatever's going on, if we have power and want to change it, we just change it, right? You know, in other words, powerlessness, the opposite being complete and total power, the ability and willingness to act in a way that changes things towards what we desire, that's power, the ability and the willingness to act in such a way with the competence and force needed to create the reality that we want. That's power. That's useful power, right? So if we don't have, if we have complete power, there's nothing depressing about anything, no matter what's going on. As soon as we learn what's going on, oh, I'm in misery, my finger is broken off. We use that power to restore the finger, to stop the tragedy. Nothing to be depressed about. So we have to be powerless in order to get anywhere near depression. And the more powerless we are, the more depressing it is. Which, conversely, so that's our first clue as to the way out of depression, is to build power through willingness and or ability, right? So we don't have any power if we could change our lives, but we won't, right? We could, but we won't. And we don't have any power if we really, really want to. We're willing to do anything that we possibly can, but we can't do anything, right? If you're a jet skier and there's a 50-foot tidal wave racing towards you at 300 miles an hour, there's nothing you can do. I mean, you can rev the engine, you can swim like mad, you just can't get out of the situation, which leads to hopelessness, to despair, right? Or, you know, is there something you can do in that situation? Maybe maybe you're aware as a diver that if you dive into the wave or if you get away from the jet ski, your odds are better, or maybe you can climb up the jet. Like, maybe there are things you can do. But if you can't do anything, well, then it's more depressing. But it's just as depressing as, I really could get out and walk. I really could get out and start running. But I just keep getting fatter. I could do it, right? But I won't do it. Right? That's just as depressing, right? Last year I was 200 pounds, now I'm 300 pounds, now I'm 400 pounds. And then at some point, as I'm 600 and 700 and 800 pounds, at some point now I can't get out and walk, right? So, but anyway, this I could do it, but I won't is depressing. I want to do it, but I can't is equally depressing. So powerlessness, complete powerlessness. I can't change my thoughts. That's a form of powerlessness. My thoughts are running me. I keep thinking what a schmuck I am. It's depressing to think you're a schmuck, right? And so I want to change that thought, but I can't change it. I just keep thinking that. So I'm powerless to stop a painful thought. It just goes round and round and round and round. I tried this, I tried that, I tried this, but I don't know how to do it, right? I lack the competency or the will to change. I'm powerless to change this feeling. I feel absolutely horrible. Never felt so horrible. And it just keeps going on and on and on. There's nothing I can do to stop how horrible this feels. I'm powerless to change my feelings. I'm in enormous pain. I'm in enormous anxiety. I'm in enormous dread. I'm in enormous shame. I'm in physical pain. There's this aching feeling in my tooth, in my ear, in my body. It's burning feeling. I can't change it, right? Well, these are the three forms of power to change one's thoughts. Well, I guess there's four forms. We can change our thoughts. If we want to change our thoughts but can't, we're powerless. If we don't want to change our thoughts, we're also powerless. If we want to change our feelings and we can, we're powerful, right? But if we can't change our feelings or we don't want to, and they're miserable, well, that's powerless, right? And the same with sensation. We're in pain, we're powerless. Now, the other thing is the environment, right? If our environment, let's say there's a fire starting, well, if we can get a fire extinguisher and put it out, and we're willing to do that and put it out, well, then there's nothing to be depressed about, right? There's something to get going, right? But if we look at fire and say, I don't really care, right? I could put the fire out, I just don't care, right? Well, that's depressing, right? Or I care, but there's nothing I can do. There's no water anywhere around, right? There's nothing I can do. It's just going to get worse, right? So that's depressing or anxiety producing. So powerlessness is a really key part of depression. Like, I really want to go out on a date. I just, I can't find anyone who will go with me, right? I can't change the environment. If I could create an environment with lots of people that wanted to go on a date with me, I wouldn't be depressed. But I want to go on a date, but I can't change all these people. I don't know how, or I'm not willing. Meaning, I don't want to get up and ask 100 people until someone, says yes. I don't want to. I'm not willing to. Well, that's depressing. I want to go, but I'm not willing to take the steps that'll go, or I don't know how, right? I'm willing. I'm asking, will you go on a date with me? Will you go on a date with me? Will you go on a date? Now people are laughing at me and still not going on a date, right? I don't know how, right? So that's depression. Powerless to change the environment, powerless to change our sensation, powerless to change our feelings, and powerless to change our thoughts. Now, the next variable is pain, right? Pain in the past, it always starts there. If you've never experienced pain in the past, you're not depressed, by the way. So pain in the past, it starts there. Pain in the present, if you're blissfully enjoying life, you're not depressed. If you're absolutely miserable, anxious, fearful, guilty, shame-based, well, then you're depressed, right? Or perhaps you're depressed, or perhaps you're just in agony and not depressed. There has to be pain. Pain in the past, pain in the present. But very importantly for depression, you need to have pain in the future. You can think of this little mental experiment. You're in prison, which you hate, eating prison food, which you hate, being treated badly by prison guards, which you hate, and, you've been innocent all along, which isn't fair and all this stuff. So, but let's say that you know with certainty that 30 seconds from now, Iron Man is going to break open the bars and rescue you. And you know that. You see Iron Man coming. You've got a little note from Iron Man. He's going to come and he's going to rescue you from prison. Well, are you depressed? Of course not, right? Now, you take the exact same... You're still in prison, though, right? But you take the exact same scenario, you're sitting in the same situation, you hate this, you hate all this, and you have a different idea. Your idea is that for absolutely no reason, in a completely unfair criminal prison system, you're going to get weaker and angrier and more bitter. You're going to become unhealthier. You're going to become lonelier. You're going to become more irritated for the next 30 years. And then they're going to spit you out when you've got no hope of doing anything worthwhile with your life. You know, and by that point, you're just be a raving maniac. You feel energized and excited? No, because the future is miserable, right? So there has to be pain present. It's always present in the past, or we don't have any reference point to project it into the future, right? And there was nothing to lead to the pain in the present. So the pain in the past leads to the pain in the present. But what creates the depression is the projection of the future. Again, if you know with certainty that 30 seconds from now, ta-da, you know, the gates will open, the announcement will come out, you've just won the lottery, the most sexy person alive is waiting for you outside, you've got millions of dollars, you've been vindicated, you're going to get an apology from the president, you know, we're so sorry we wasted your time. Let's have a public apology, you know, that you never did anything wrong. We messed up. Here, enjoy the rest of your life. Have a medal of freedom, whatever it is, you know. And you know that that's going to happen in 30 seconds. But nothing's changed. You've still got prison food. You're still in the bar, but you're no longer depressed. This is an interesting reality, right? So depression is mostly about pain that is anticipated in the future. I mean, it may be very depressing to be here now, but if any day now things are going to go great, you don't feel depressed about the future. You feel interested in the future. You feel excited about the future. You're planning the future. You're preparing for that wonderful thing. So next we have powerlessness as a key point. We have pain as a key point. And so what's top pain? An absolute miserable past with an absolute miserable present that is going to get worse, right? That's kind of top pain. So what's that look like? Well, you got thoughts that every time you think them make you more miserable. And you keep thinking them. You've got PTSD, for example. And PTSD has several interesting and painful consequences. One of them is that your most painful memories do not deteriorate with time. Like if you kissed someone for the first time, this isn't a traumatic event, so it fades. You could bring it back, but you don't relive it with crystal clear, 4K vision that doesn't change. However, if you watched your best friend be shot right in front of you in Vietnam, and you're having a flashback, you see the exact 4K vision in precise detail again and again. It doesn't fade with time. That's one of the ways you know you're dealing with a traumatic memory. So it's the worst possible memory, and it's the most vivid possible memory. And you feel the same feelings you felt before, and the same body sensation and the same imagery again and again. And you can't get out of it without getting drunk. And then every time you get drunk and pass out and stuff, you come back and you realize your life has gotten worse. You made another mess in your reality. Pretty painful, right? mental pain, emotional pain, and traumatic memories are lived in the body. Your body feels like they're going through the same pain all over again. So your body is going through the worst possible memory. Your mind is going through the worst possible memory. Your heart is feeling the worst possible feelings of helplessness, powerlessness, guilt, shock, terror, and pain. Well, pretty depressing. Particularly when you live in a culture, where not much money is being spent funding studies on PTSD, where your own government is blocking, as in the case of MDMA or psilocybin, putting tremendous barriers up on resources that might be able to heal you from your worst possible nightmare. Your friendly government, right, who promises to take care of you and do all this. That's pretty depressing, right? You're in absolute agony day after day after day after day. And not only is it not getting billions of dollars of funding, and so so let's make this worse, right? Military betrayal, right? So betrayal, right? Think of how the young men felt going to Vietnam, being told that they were saving the world, serving their country. And it turned out that they were asked to murder women and children 18 hours flight away with zero military threats to the US, and to set fire to forests. I mean, talk about fuel-inefficient cars. How about let's just set fire to a country and burn villages of women and children who pose no threat to the US and be called a hero? So insanity, it doesn't help to be asked to go insane. You were lied to. And then the Veterans Administration is focused on its own public image more than on your well-being and your peers' well-being. You bonded with your unit. You bonded with your unit. You care about your fellow soldier. And they're being treated with the same cruelty and stupidity as you are. They're being lied to. So it's meaningless pain. So it's extraordinary pain and it's meaningless pain. The world would have been a better place if that war hadn't been fought. The planet's CO2 levels did not benefit from napalm. Humanity, your ability to feel like a human being was not developed by setting fire, by burning women and children alive, by invading another country. I mean, do you understand how much pain a 20-year-old who thought they were doing the right thing, who thought their country knew what it was doing, feels? And then being all alone, nobody understands. Loneliness is depressing. Nobody gets it. Or they're angry at you, right? But how could you have known that all these giants, all of your life, telling you to trust the government and trust your country and trust your family and we're the greatest thing that's ever been, how could you know that was all a lie? And they knew it was a lie. Or they did it to be elected. And then democracy is supposed to be this great thing. So we have to go to war to get elected because what? We're too dumb to elect people that don't go to war? What you'd make of this, right? And we don't teach people to think, so this is very confusing. It's painful, right? So we have powerlessness. We have pain. We have meaninglessness. We have betrayal. We have loneliness. And it's going to keep going on because we're powerless to stop it, right? People with PTSD are powerless to stop the flashbacks, right? They're powerless to change the budgets that would bring relief to their fellow soldiers. And I guess with powerlessness comes incompetence. So incompetence, that's part of the powerlessness. But there's another thing that kind of adds to this, and this is the feeling of deserving it, right? Maybe you've killed 10 women and children. You realize this was wrong. You realize I should have been able to stand up to my commanding officer and say, go fuck yourself. I'm not going to butcher human beings for your bullshit. Go fuck yourself. I could have been shot or discharged or put in jail, but no one can force me to murder women and children by burning them alive and setting fire to ecologies, burning animals alive. I mean, what the fuck were we thinking? I deserve to feel this horrendous because I should have known better. So self-blame, leaving to deserve, the feeling that everything that is going horribly wrong in our body, that we deserve it. So this is depressing because it decreases our willingness to do anything about it. When we believe that we deserve every painful thing that we're experiencing, and it's incredibly painful, then there's no willingness to change it. And if it's been going on for a while, and even we have abandoned ourselves with judgment and blame, there's no hope because nobody's changing it out there. And we believe that we deserve it, so we refuse to change it in here. There's complete and utter betrayal, complete and utter abandonment of anything reasonable to look forward to. I can just look forward to endless punishment that I deserve endlessly. Pretty depressing. When the pain that this all creates is so high that the only thing that we can do is dissociate, go numb, shut down, we become depressed. We leave our body. We leave our mind. We become as unaware as we possibly can because there's no escape from the pain, from the fear. We're powerless. So that's about as miserable as I can find. But let's add a few things. Because let's see. If you're a woman, you're more likely to be depressed than a man. A man is more likely to act out angrily these horrible atrocities and pains. A woman is more likely to go inward. and self, maybe eat more, right? So, to block things. So, okay, so you're a woman. So statistical odds of depression go up. And then you're getting older, so you're losing energy. So every year you notice you have less and less energy. So there's less and less time, less and less hope, less and less energy to do anything about any of this. So it becomes more hopeless as you get older. And then maybe you get a disease while all this is going on, a cancer or whatever. And, you could look at this both ways. When this is this miserable, maybe there's hope. Like, maybe my life will end soon, right? And I'll be able to just escape this endless nightmare of horror. So maybe there's hope that I'll be dying soon. Or maybe it's hopeless because I want to live, but I've now got absolutely no chance. Now, you can make the outer reality much more miserable. I think one of the more depressing things is to be punished, shamed, and blamed for what you're doing right. Now, what's the right thing? Just to be clear, we're not talking about biblical whatever. The right thing is the thing that reduces unnecessary chronic suffering, that conserves wasted energy, that creates sustainable well-being. That's the right thing. When we say it's the right thing to do to give a qualified person the job rather than someone who gave you a bribe, what we mean is that if a qualified person does the job, it'll be done well and well-being will result. If you've got a cousin who wants to fly fighter jets and has no experience, but, here, cuz, here's $100. Pick me for the fighter jet, position. You say, okay, your family, have a fighter jet. Well, what's the problem? Well, assuming the kid can get off the ground, there's now a missile-loaded, 10-ton vehicle hurtling around in space that is, maybe it'll catch fire to start a forest fire. It's certainly probably going to kill his life. Maybe it'll let the enemy know that your people are so incompetent that they might as well invade because, obviously if teenagers are the pilots of fighter jets, who needs to worry about the fighter jets? They're useless without anyone knowing how to fly them. So it's wrong to give some teenage cousin a position as a fighter jet pilot without any training. And it's wrong to give a son or a daughter CEO of a company that ruins the lives of hundreds of thousands of employees because they don't know how to run the company. They just were a son or a daughter of someone who did know how to run the company. So it's wrong to cause unnecessary chronic suffering when it can be avoided. That's our sense of right and wrong. It's wrong for a judge to let his wife off of taking cocaine and put teenagers in jail. That's wrong. It's a double standard. We know this is wrong because it erodes all trust in our officials. So nepotism is wrong. Corruption is wrong. It's wrong that just because some lobbyist paid $1 million, they get to write a bill that destroys the health of tens of millions of people. It's wrong, right? So when things are wrong, it's more depressing. Things are going to get worse. when things are off track. You have the right track and the wrong track. The wrong track is heading towards more suffering, right? So you have that. So the worst possible reality to be in is a reality where the person who does the right thing for the right reason experiences more pain because they are being punished by the people who have more power, who are doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons, right? When Julian Assange is harassed, spied upon, when people are bribed to put him on trial because he's publishing war crimes by the United States. When the United States breaks its own laws, diplomatic immunity, and the same with Snowden, right? When U.S. tax dollars are spent to punish a journalist for telling the story, the wrong thing is being done for the wrong reasons. And the person that dedicated their life to transparency, to truth, to bringing more important news stories to light than any other news organization in the world in a 10-year period, when that is the target, how can we crush truth as systematically as possible? And you believe that's wrong. I believe that's wrong. Now, this is where subjectivity again, but we're talking about depression, right? So if I believe that it's far more dangerous that Abu Ghraib happened than that the world knows about it, then I want more news coverage. I want the military to clean up its act with my tax dollars so that more people avoid degrading, dehumanizing cruelty, spending my money to dehumanize other human beings. I want that. And the only way you're going to get that is with a free press. Now, the fact that Julian Assange has been systematically persecuted and that Snowden was driven to Russia, but that the US government has not paid reparations for Abu Ghraib to the families, is disgusting to me. It's wrong. So my point is, it's depressing. Whatever you believe is wrong, it's depressing if you know that you live in a world where if you tell the truth, if you do what you believe is right, you will be punished. And if you do what is wrong, you will be rewarded. That is a sick world to live in. So that's a depressing world to live in. Because it encourages us to leave ourself, our values. It encourages us to leave ourself and our values and become someone we despise, to become someone we believe is wrong and is part of the problem. So that's depressing. It's painful. And if that's the future, that it's going to get more and more painful, that I'm in a system that punishes everything good in me and weakens everything good in me and rewards everything bad in me, is depressing and is sick, because the longer I'm in that system, the worse I will become. And the worse I become, the more wretched the future I will participate in. That's a disgusting and depressing future, right? So that's getting worse, right? punished for what's good and beautiful and true in you. You know, that's the experience a spouse has, right? One spouse is beating a child that didn't do anything wrong. The other spouse intervenes and then gets beaten even more for doing the right thing. And then nobody steps in, which means the abuse is going to continue. So you have a future of abuse to look forward, surrounded by cowards. That's depressing. Why do we cheer a hero? Because they make the future a better place. But if we won't fight for our heroes, if we will sacrifice our heroes, let them burn, discouraging all future heroes, let it be known that if anyone tells the truth about the U.S. government and its darker side, that every international law, every amount of money imaginable will be spent to kill them, to silence them, to shame them, to put them in prison for 175 years for the audacity of telling the truth. That is a fucked up, miserable future to look forward to. Because no one has come forward since Julian Assange and since Snowden. They've learned their lesson, right? 400 million Americans, plenty of which know any number of diabolical things our country is involved with. And they also now know that more than $1 billion of public money will be spent to harass anyone who whistleblowers in any meaningful way. What a great and exciting thing to look forward to. How likely are you to win against $1 billion of money and thousands of people all colluding to shut you up because you're telling the truth? How likely are you to win that battle? Very unlikely. And that's a depressing reality to live in, right? So it's when I say that it's not personal that you and I are depressed, it takes a very carefully designed system to induce 20% of its members into depression. How many monkeys are depressed? How many deer are depressed? Are 20% of the deer population depressed? Are 20% of chimps depressed? It's quite an unnatural accomplishment with so much luxury and so much wealth to be able to systematically induce chronic depression in 20%, in 1 out of 5 people. It's an incredible anomaly in nature. And we're doing it again and again, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. That's depressing. So these are some of the things that lead to the most depressing reality imaginable, and each one carries the path out, right? So you're powerless, build power. Mental power, emotional power, whatever. It's like a muscle. You build power, right? I can't lift 600 pounds. No, you can't. But if you'll lift 30 weights a day and do this and start running and you'll get more physical power. I don't know what to think about this stuff. No, that's true. But if you read 1 book a month on depression and psychology and PTSD, etc., you will know what to think about it. You will build that muscle. I don't know how to stop feeling terrible. That's absolutely right. But if you meditate or do yoga or start jogging, you will learn and do experiments. You will learn and gain more power. So you counteract powerlessness with power. I'm in pain. What's pain? I'm far away from what I want. What I want is over here. I'm over here. Pain is in the gap. Pain measures how far away I am from what I need and what I desire. So meet your human needs to survive, to feel secure in your survival, to experience love and belonging, develop self-esteem, develop your talents. Bring your talents abundantly into the world, creating value, and start serving and becoming part of something bigger than yourself. A national ambition, a religion, the ecology. Dream of a more beautiful humanity. Become part of something bigger than yourself. Your prayer is your time, your money, your attention. What you pay attention to, you pray to. What you spend money on, you pray to. What you do, what you say, what you think, you pray to. Those are your prayers. So spend them fulfilling your human needs and reducing your pain in the process. And as you reduce pain in yourself, the net amount of pain in the world goes down if you're doing that sustainably by meeting your human needs. So reduce your pain. Betrayal. Discern. Learn to discern who's trustworthy and who isn't, right? Betray yourself less by learning. See, because in order to be betrayed, we have to believe a liar. So in a sense, the betrayal always starts there, like, I trusted you. Yeah, but that was wrong. You are not trustworthy, right? So I betrayed myself by not having an algorithm that can discern trustworthy and untrustworthy people, right? So stop betraying yourself by believing untrustworthy people. So if the world is corrupt and punishing what's bad, start rewarding what's good in yourself and what's others, and get yourself into another environment. Get yourself into another environment, into a microclimate in which what is good, beautiful, and true in you and in others is celebrated, is awarded. And start with yourself. What's good in you? Did you do anything good today? You got out of bed. Is that better than staying in bed? Good. Okay. Praise that. Thanks for getting out of bed. Did you eat some food? That's better than starving. Did you eat good food? That's better than eating crap food. Praise what you're doing good to survive, to feel secure, to develop love and belonging, to develop self-esteem, to develop your talents and ability. Did you develop your talents and ability today? Do you have any skill at all? The ability to know what ants are thinking, the ability to chainsaw trees that are a fire risk in the national park. Do you have some ability, some talent that you're good at, that you can get better at? So then do that, and you will have more power, but you'll also be meeting your human need to be competent, to be excellent, to be independent, to have your own self-reliance and self-confidence. Express your anger. Don't suppress and depress your anger. Express your anger. Hey, what the fuck did you mean sending me off to burn women and children alive in Vietnam? Protest, right? This is what happened, right? Tell the story that's being silenced. And if people don't want to listen to it, fuck them. Fuck them. Find someone that is actually interested in seeing you. It's less depressing than spending time with people that don't want to see you. So then the future gets a little brighter. It isn't so depressing. Look at the pain in the past and the pain in the present and the pain that's likely to be in the future, and do something to make the future better for yourself and or for other people. Invest in a company you believe in. Plant a tree. Plant many trees. Don't feel guilty that you're polluting the carbon. You're polluting the atmosphere with carbon. If you will plant 1,000 trees by donating $1,000 to a tree company, you will be carbon neutral. Those 1,000 trees will be pulling out of the atmosphere all of the carbon you put into the atmosphere, and you are a carbon neutral human being. So fight for that. Fight for cleaner air by planting 1,000 trees. And stop beating yourself up for ruining the environment. Beating yourself up for ruining the environment is depressing. Sitting around doing nothing because you don't want to ruin the environment is depressing. I'd love to travel over here, but the jet fuel is ruining the environment. 300 trees will take all of that jet fuel that you're producing out of the environment. So then pay $300 and go on your trip. That's more exciting, right? Make the future better systematically, and you will not be depressed. You will be excited. Step by step by step. There's thousands of steps that we've all taken to fall into or be depressed. And there needs to be thousands of steps, and little ones and big ones, and over time to get out of it. That's every one of these things. You can fight for something else, right? You can, when I'm upset with how WikiLeaks is being treated, I send money to WikiLeaks. That's tax deductible. And then that money isn't going to the government that's trying to destroy free speech and media. I want a world where there's another WikiLeaks. For every country. Every country has a shadow. And we grow more when we acknowledge that and do our self-reflecting to not make the world a worse place because we're hiding the demon that we're creating inside. The world is a better place when the ugliness inside us and inside each country has a chance to be seen and worked with in the open. That's the job of the media. It's the job of self-analysis, right? So, pay more money to WikiLeaks, and you'll get more of that world. It's not completely hopeless. So, these are the paths out of the worst possible place. And what about meaningless pain? It's completely pointless and meaningless. But you can give meaning to the completely pointless and meaning by saying, I'm going to write a book that would never have been written. I'm going to tell a story that's never been told. Right? So this video is giving some meaning to my depression, to my pain. Why? Because its purpose is to bring about more awareness about depression so fewer people are depressed. In other words, if my suffering is used as a basis to do things that reduces suffering in the world over time, then my suffering that is meaningless in the abstract becomes meaningful. There's a reason. There's a reason to get out of it as well, right? To figure out how and show other people. That's another meaning. So take meaninglessness, and all meaning comes from helping yourself or others to feel sustainably better and avoid feeling chronically worse. That's all meaning has to do with the felt human experience. We all want to feel better. If you help someone feel significantly better, that gesture will have meaning to them. And if you care about them, it will have meaning to you. So take the meaningless pain and make it meaningful. Take the purposeless pain and give it a purpose. And that bit will improve, right? So every one of these has a converse. Take all the things that, and if you're being bullied and you can't afford to tell the truth and stick up. Dream of the time that you can and increase your power. Right? See, Edward Snowden didn't just blab out to the press what was going on. He understood, having watched the sociopathic and illegal activity of his own government for more than a decade, he understood that they would rather kill him than have the truth come out. That the United States government was illegally spying on United States citizens. He understood that they would rather kill him. He understood that they would rather silence him in any way imaginable than that the truth come out. And he understood the mechanisms by which they would do that: disinformation, hacking, illegal activity, illegal spying on him, dismissal of that this was never happened, locking him up under the sea. So he understood all of that. And so he planned a process to counteract all of those systems, traveling outside the US, of going to very specific countries, of seeking asylum, of having the documents go to multiple news agencies, so that his own country that would rather kill him than have truth and justice and law come out, the very things they were spouting about, the very things that they demand money for. You see, the US government takes people's money under penalty of killing them or stealing all their things. If you don't pay these taxes right now, there'll be penalties, we'll take your house, we'll arrest you, we'll kill you if necessary to get that money. But the promise of the government, the promise of every government that taxes its people, is that don't worry, we're going to use that money to make your life better. We're going to use that money for upholding the law, to make the world a better place, to uphold human rights, to build your roads. We're going to do all these things for you. We're going to not only do these things for you, we're going to do a better job of spending your money for you than you would. And that's the ethical basis for taking all your money, or whatever percentage it is, right? We're going to take this money under the threat of jail and imprisonment and destroying your family, but we're going to use it better than you would for things that benefit you. That's the promise. But Edward Snowden knew that was a lie. He knew that his money, his tax dollars, would be used to break the law, to try and crush his spirit, so that the people wouldn't understand what laws were being broken and what rights were being violated to them. He understood that. He understood that tens of millions of dollars would instantly go into effect to try and kill or silence him in any way necessary. And so he had to come up with a way, leaving his relationship, leaving his country that he loves. He had to come up with a way to outwit all of this illegal activity and publish the documents. And he, because he loves his country, he also had to come up with a way not to endanger it at the same time. And courtesy of his kindness and brilliance, no U.S. agents have been killed because of that whistleblowing leak. And it's now, 10 years later? Edward Snowden did all of that. And the world is a better place because of people like him. But because of power structures like the US government, Snowden is forced to live in Russia because his passport was illegally revoked. Rather than him being given an award for fighting for the American people, while his plane had landed in Russia en route to political asylum, his passport was revoked. So he was stuck in Russia, forced by the US. I mean, what a dumb setup. I mean, it's depressing to have your money and energy spent on the most stupid things imaginable that damage American well-being. It is not a benefit that Snowden is stuck in Russia. In other words, the American government created a security threat by that action. They didn't fix one. Just as they created security threats by breaking the law repeatedly, right? And they broke American trustworthiness and credibility. So now we have to spend more money with less goodwill around the world because of some of the disgusting protocols our government is involved with our money, right? So, but you can, make contributions. You can tell stories. You can make the world a better place than if you didn't exist. You can't change the world, but you can make it a better place than it would have been if you didn't exist. And you can muster courage. You can learn about other courageous people. Rosa Parks deciding to take a stand against racism, to not go silently into a good night where a Christian hypocritical cult brainwashes its people into, on the one hand, saying all people are created equal, and we're going to take this group of people and treat them like slaves because of their skin color. That's brainwashing. It's insane. It's the exact opposite, and it's existing, right? So that's how you brainwash people. You tell them this is red, and then you tell them this is black, then you switch it around and say, no, that's red and that's black, and you just go back and forth and you beat them or traumatize them anytime they question your stupidity or your insanity. And they eventually, brainwashing is you realize that the only thing that makes sense is to do whatever the person tells you. Because that's the only pattern that stays true, is you get traumatized if you don't follow orders. And you get a little bit less pain if you do follow orders. It's how you brainwash. An educational system, a citizenry, a military. Stop thinking. Do what you're told, right? This is the way it is. This is the way it is because I said so. So you can respond to that. You can feel more. You can start expressing these in small ways. And as your power and influence grows, you can express them in slightly bigger ways, right? So if you have any other ways, any other ideas for how to alleviate some of these conditions that have worked for you, I'd love to hear the story in the comments below. And thank you for honoring this area of our collective and national psyche.